Welcome to Rad2, another daily reader for Reddit. Like and subscribe for daily Reddit videos. Teachers of Reddit, what is the smartest, most creative way of cheating that you've seen? I'm a high school teacher, but this story is about my own high school math teacher playing us and cheating. It was an honors, algebra, geometry class, and it was well known that Mr. D reused the same questions every year. Just change the numbers. He made a big deal about making sure we all gave our exam papers back to him after we had looked at our scores and gone over everything together to prevent cheating for the next year. Well, of course, some of my classmates got their hands on a complete set of tests from the previous year. Soon, everyone had a set. Before each exam, we would sit together and make sure we knew how to solve every problem on that test so we could do it on the real exam with different numbers. Years later, when I became a teacher myself, I saw Mr. D at a funeral. I confessed to him that this is what we used to do. He smirked and said, "Who do you think leaked the test packet to get you to study?" Mr. D had figured out that kids won't study if the teacher suggests it. But if they think they're getting away with something, they totally will. So he managed to get a test packet out and circulating as contraband. Blew my mind. God, that reminds me of the Key and Peele skit about robbing a bank by getting a job. Back in my high school years, my teacher straight out gave us a practice booklet that was just the final exam with a header changed. I liked that class. Ha. The girl with the cheating tattoo. I think I saw this one. Teacher is checking out the student's leg and ends up finding out Shush is cheating. He threatens to suspend her, unless... Oh yeah, I saw this too. There was only her, another girl and the teacher in the exam room. They all looked 25 plus, sitting on primary school desks. And even though it was physics, there's an elementary style map of the world on the wall. There was a class that allowed you to bring one sheet of handwritten notes to exams. I knew a guy that created a font of his own handwriting and used to print the entire study guide onto a piece of notebook paper, front and back. He even set the font color to pencil gray and managed to get the margins and spacing exactly right to look like it had been handwritten. Modern problems require modern solutions. That sounds like a lot more work than just writing notes on a piece of paper. I had a professor do open book, open note. He probably would have allowed open computer too. The problem was it was an abstract algebra class and just finding answers for homework took hours. Definitely not enough time to find the answers during a test. My girlfriend works for a dental exam company, which are obviously super high-stakes exams. Since the exams are worldwide, they have actually found people from one time zone paying people from another time zone to email questions to them right before the exam starts. There's actually a movie with this same plot called Bad Genius, where a student takes a test in a different country that is a few hours ahead and texts the answers back to others that have the test in a few hours. I watched this movie. It's inspired by a bunch of different cases of creative cheating in Asia. Not cheating, but back in the pre-internet days, I once placed a midnight phone call from the eastern US to the reference librarian at the Honolulu Public Library to get a quick piece of critical information I needed to finish a term paper that was due at 8 a.m. D, that's what I always pick. My mum does too, sad face. Finnish schools also used this method when we were still occupied by Russia in order to look good to the inspectors. Edit. Finland was under Russian rule, not occupied. Sorry, I didn't proofread and English isn't my native language. I want to see the one day where everyone in the class raised their left hands. Genius. Our calculator had a storage feature too. Once you open the battery cover, it turns off, and on next start it shows the reset screen. We had to open the cover and let the teacher press OK to reset. No way of cheating here. If it's a T calculator, set a really simple program to launch on startup with a fake reset screen and OK box. I got out in the spelling bee in 5th grade because I couldn't tell if they were saying ladder or latter, and apparently you can't ask, is that with AD or with AT? Did you not have the option to have them use it in a sentence? JFT, what have I started? I was grading a written assignment that had a 1,000 word count minimum, and one particular paper just felt really short to me despite Word telling me it was roughly 1,100 words long. On a hunch I hit Control A and sure enough after the paper concluded there was a lot of white nonsense. Text on a white background. Pro tip. I used to do this when submitting resumes. At the bottom of the document I would type in the keywords for the job posting. Change the font to blend into the white background. And then convert the doc to a PDF before submitting. Always put my resume at the top of the candidate since every single keyword was listed on their document, but was undetectable by the hiring manager. That's gotta be the dumbest form of lengthening a paper there is. If you email the document, one click foils the plan. And if you turn in a hard copy, the white text doesn't even count. If you turn in a physical copy, you won't have a strictly enforced word count. Probably a page count if anything. And 9/10 students don't email their papers. There will be a turn-in portal somewhere that typically doesn't detect the white text. Physics professor posted the answers to the homework online after it was due. Thing was, he was just making the existing pages visible and the URLs followed a simple and predictable format. If you knew the URL you could look at it before it was made public. fakeaddress.physics.edu 002, 003, etc. We found out my ECON 103 professor did this too, except when we typed the URL in. It led to Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up video. We got Rickroll. My sister-in-law is a teaching assistant at her kids' school. Her youngest daughter, my niece, was 7 at the time. She stole the test the night before, pretended it was homework and had her mom help her with her homework, then sneaked the answers in to the test. One of the other kids caught her, let the teacher know, and my sil, who was overseeing test conditions, died inside when she realized it was the homework sheet that she'd filled out. I was a tar for anatomy and physiology. The professor would ask for me to sit in on finals to prevent cheating. One kid came in with a vitamin water. No worries. Halfway through the test the professor noticed they kept turning the bottle and squinting. This goes on for another 20 minutes. Professor goes up, grabs the vitamin water bottle and rips off the label. It had a crib sheet written on the back. The students had gone to the effort to make a fake vitamin water bottle label and write notes in the back. The professor was impressed by the creativity and decided to give the student a 0 and not report them to the academic committee. He should have just studied and done that so he could write "suck fat nuts" on the inside, lol. We believe in you, Mom and Dad. A classmate was printing the answers on his paper in a very pale grey so that it barely can be seen. Still got caught because the teacher noticed him reading an empty sheet. I did this once in a college class. Sort of. The class was real analysis and there was one problem that was absolutely going to be number 1 on their final exam. It had been number 1 for every final exam this professor had ever written, of which he gave us copies to study from. And it was number 1 on the study guide for our final. I couldn't do it. I tried and tried and tried, and studied, and got help, and whatever I did I could not figure out the finer point of this specific type of proof given in this specific context. So I resorted to memorizing the steps and getting it down to a sequence of blanks I could fill in. Exam day comes. I buy 2 blue books that morning. Test booklets with lined paper inside. In one of them I very faintly write the answer to number 1, complete with space to fill in the aforementioned blanks. On the front I fill in my name to differentiate it from the other booklet. When the professor tells us to take out our blue books and trade with the person next to us, I trade my blank blue book. I take the one I'm given and slip it into my backpack at the same time I slide out my blue book with my calculator and pencil. So it all looked legit. I get my test. Number 1 doesn't fail. It is exactly as expected. I fill in the blanks and write over my words. I continue on with the exam. And I pass the class. Scrap paper. Allowing students to bring their own scrap paper invites these sorts of problems. Teachers should provide a scrap paper to ensure it's secure. This is what happens when schools aren't fully funded. I'm waiting until marriage to conjugate. How would you use those without looking suspicious? You could say it's a fidget thing, but it's risky. Claim that it's a religious thing. High school kids recreated a Snapple label where the nutrition panel on the back had all the answers, formulas, etc. Only got caught because I'd never seen the flavor before and wanted to see how much sugar was in it. Everyone knows to cheat using peach Snapple. Idiot. I can imagine how worried they were when you inspected the bottle like, oh, how much sugar is in TH. But you're all failing. As a student, I remember when my entire year level was accused of cheating, as the test results came back consistently high. What the teachers failed to realize was that some of the answers were actually hidden in other questions. So if you got stuck on one question, you could find the answer later on in another question. An example would be, this was a Japanese language test. What does underscore 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 word mean? And later on, a question would use that word in context, so you would understand what that word meant. This sounds a lot like the test they take in the beginning of the Mysterious Benedict Society. It's a cool book I recommend. Used a text file on one of the original iPods. Teacher was fine with listening to music during tests. Made my life so much easier lol. You should have made your own math rap album. And call it Quick Maths. Seriously, headphones are allowed, lol. Teacher is just asking for students to cheat lol. My teacher shared with us a story about how since she allowed eating during her tests, one person pulled out a giant bag of M&Ms and ate a specific color corresponding to A, B, C, D. It was a two-student duo and they only got caught when another student ratted them out. Edit. Grammar. What a snitch. So competent QA. I passed a pop quiz in high school by looking across the room and focusing on the top of the smart girl's pencil and trying to decipher if she wrote A, B, C or D after the teacher asked each question. It actually turned out more successful than I thought it would. Edit. Spelling. Hey, I mentioned how I cheated on a quiz. What did you expect? Also, I'm all about academic integrity when it comes to important higher education when relative to your field of work, but I don't understand loading immense amounts of needless information into young, hormonal teenagers and getting upset or surprised that they don't have the mental stamina to deal with it all and would rather cheat. I've done the calculator trick all throughout school. I'll admit to it, though I had the equation saved in the graphing slots that the calculator provides for actually plotting lines. There was no way to find it unless the professor chose to open up the graphing section and go through my line plots. Never got caught. You don't need to memorize these formulas for real-life application. You can look them up as needed. The real skill is understanding how to use the formulas to actually get the information you want. I've never understood why teachers, professors force students to remember equations in math classes. In all my psychology courses we don't have to remember any equations. Just have to know how they work and what they're for. This is why my teacher in my current engineering class gives us the formulas on the board when we take tests, because he understands this concept that we have the internet to look things up on. Wasn't it mildly suspicious that everyone had the same grade? Cough. 30 kids scribble an answer at the same time. How would you know what number they're on? Frick, and if you happened to miss one question but still thought you were on the same question and got everything wrong? It's just a risk you got to take. The study mule actually coughs. Teacher, I'm really disappointed in all of you. Only Jason got everything after question 20 right. During a keyboard harmony lab exam, a room with 28 keyboards, one devious student had previously recorded another student's perfect performance of the exam piece on MIDI less than in out through greater than. The cheater played the recorded piece on MIDI, but used all the right hand motions on his keyboard at the back of the room to try to fool me that he was actually playing it in real time. Unfortunately for him, the student he recorded happened to be my piano student, and I recognized the distinctive playing immediately. I didn't embarrass him during class by calling him out on it, but dealt with the problem privately, a lesson he told me later that would stay with him for the remainder of his life. I'm also certain she either killed him or slept with him or maybe both. In what order? I was supervising a final chemistry exam along with another coworker. Not 15 minutes in, a hand slams down on a desk and I turn around expecting the worst, only to see my coworker angrily shouting at a pair of really frightened 10th graders whose desk key smashed. Amidst the shouting I caught the words, Morse code. The guy proceeded to take them to the office. I called a hallway supervisor to take over and ran after the group. Apparently, the kids were silently tapping the answers amongst themselves in Morse code. Not even with their fingernails. Just their fingertips. I never heard a thing. My coworker happened to catch B in Morse code or something. I honestly thought he finally went crazy solely because of his appearance. Picture Robin Williams in Jumanji going, "What year is it?" I'm 100% sure that if this coworker weren't in the room, they'd have gotten away with it for sure. I had summaries of chemistry and a load of math formulas on my graphic calculator, TI-83, and I had a backup on a thumb drive so that I could put it back after a mandatory reset. You can archive stuff right before a reset. The resets don't touch anything archived, then just unarchived during the test. I had one too. If I recall correctly, it didn't use the same font as the standard print functionality, and I wound up using some sort of draw functionality to write individual pixels to the graph. You also needed to disable the graph axis, but there was actually a function to do that. I'm having a rush of nostalgia about all the weird hacky things I did on my TI-83. That was probably one of the reasons I got into computing professionally. I used my programmable calculator to write a program for every possible math, physics question that gave me every step of the problem-solving sequence along the way. They always said, "Show your work." A lot of calculators have testing mode on them too. This happened to our entire group of chem students last year. Everyone in the classes were cheating on their homework, because the answers were always online. In the second semester, someone made the mistake of writing "answers may vary," and the teacher finally realized we were all cheating. When I was in high school, I bought a pen like this one where each time you click the message, inside would change. I took it apart and was able to tape paper over the tube and fit things that I would need to help me on some quizzes and tests. It's a promotional item that salespeople give away for marketing. They can get way more elaborate. Not a teacher, but there's the famous urban legend about how a Caltech student got a perfect score on a take-home exam. I realize the story is apocryphal, but the thing I'm most confused about is the detail that a take-home exam has a time limit. I get the honor system with regard to not cheating, but would they really expect someone to time themselves on a take-home exam? And if your power goes out or computer shuts down, you're fricked. If OP is a student crowdsourcing cheating strategies, then this is one of the most creative ways of cheating that I've seen. I found some bands left at my football field with formulas on the sides of them for math last year. Thanks for watching Rad2. Like and subscribe for daily Reddit videos. If you like these videos, check out the original Rad channel.